And we're back. All right. So this is the Critical Angle podcast with Drew and Jace. Jace is freshly manicured. As you'll notice, if anybody's seen the intro, he was not nearly that good looking as he is now. So good to have you, Jace.
Good to be here.
Good to be with you again. One to start out, I guess this is technically episode 1, but for you and I both know it's really episode 1. It's the second recording of the first rendition here. In all of my expertise, I figured out that it was possible to entirely delete one person off of a podcast, and I deleted all of Jace off the first time we recorded this. And honestly, I don't even remember that much of what we talked about. I don't think most of it may even come up. I think we've got some other things on our minds we want to talk about. One thing that we did talk about at the end of that, our last conversation, I did want to bring up is some accountability items that we left with. My goal was to read one chapter in the good book, read one chapter in my Bible. Yours was, again, remind me?
Mine was kind of journaling and keeping up with everything, like how I slept, how I felt waking up, diet, just state of mind kind of stuff. And I didn't even crack a book open. So,
well, there's always this week. And there's no time like the present, they say.
Yep.
I was thinking something that might, you said that, and there's a thing called a swoop band. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
So those do like a lot of, like your intake and how well you like. I don't know how accurate. I wonder how accurate those are compared to what actually happened. So if it says you got a great night's sleep, how did you actually feel? It'll say that you're 70% recovered from the previous day or something.
Yeah, from my understanding,
I've heard good things, but I've heard good things about it. But I think everybody that I've ever heard anything good about is someone getting paid to wear it. So.
Yeah, from my understanding, any sort of like wearable that goes around your wrist is pretty widely inaccurate. I don't know if that goes for like the sleep, but it definitely goes for the pulse ox and the heart rate. So like I wear a Garmin Fenix 6 watch, hands down the best watch a man can buy for sure. I mean, battery life is good. It's not, you can't respond to text messages, but you can get text notifications and phone calls and stuff on the watch.
Is this unpaid advice?
This is, yeah. It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. It's taken some abuse, and I wear it hunting all the time. I wear it every day at work, but so that's my like wearable. So, and that does keep track of sleep if you want it and if you wear it, but I usually don't wear it.
Nice.
So,
well, in comparison to the Apple Watch, I have a friend that I actually hunted with, Travis. Sure, he'll get mentioned a lot on here. He's I don't know if it's a partner, but he's the other guy. Me and him both leased property with 175 acres here in north central Missouri. He wore an Apple Watch and gutted a deer last night, and it went pretty smooth. It came out on top. So those things, I guess, are a little bit more durable than thought. I've never really worn one. I've had one, but never have worn it. So
yeah, I can say that my watch has probably been in more animals than Garmin thought it would be. So, and it's still running right. So,
excellent.
But yeah, anyways, where are we at today? What's going on?
I guess kind of recent hunts. I had probably the most recent hunt I hunted yesterday.
Okay.
On the property that I just mentioned that Travis and I hunt. We've got a bit of a doe problem. It may not be necessarily a problem, but we're definitely overrun with does. We're in the time of year where we wouldn't expect to see a lot of bucks anyways, but even since the rut, since opening weekend of Missouri rifle season, I've sat a few times. Travis has sat many, many times in different spots on this farm, and we've seen a few good bucks. We've seen some good bucks. but we have seen so many does. It is unbelievable. Just the week of Thanksgiving, Travis said he sat for 4 days, counted 100+ does to $3.
Dang.
And one of those bucks is a spike, and I don't know if you count that. But anyways, he's male, so we're counting him. But
Hey, greater than 4 inches.
yeah, that's great. That's right. He was longer than that on one side. So, and we've had other bucks hit the cell cameras in the nights, but we've got one of the best food sources locally to where we are, and so I think we're getting an influx of the neighbors' does. In addition to, I would be thinking we should be seeing the neighbors' bucks as well, even the young bucks, not necessarily the older deer, who are, probably are run down from the rut, who I would, in my experience, I think they're laying low, near water, near food, and they're eat, sleep, repeat, and trying to regenerate from the rut now that the rut is over. Definitely on food source for sure. But we've got a great food source. We've got wheat. We've got winter wheat that's planted basically everywhere. Of the 175 acres, about 150 of it is, maybe a little less, somewhere around 140 to 150 of it is tillable.
Okay.
And so we've got some pockets within the farm. We've got a few really good pockets where deer bed down and feel safe. And then we've got one whole corner of the property that backs up to a good larger timber spot. And so we get some travel in that corner as well. So it's done us well so far. It's been a great farm. Love it. Love the layout. Of course, there's always things you want to change, but regardless, we've seen a ton of does. Haven't done probably our fair share of doe harvesting in the past. And so we went out and let the rifles eat, and we knocked down 4 of them last night. And I don't know if you got the Snapchat I sent you. I started running stringers through their hocks, and that's how we gathered them up. It's a lot easier that way.
Yeah.
And 4 sounds like a lot to knock down. We saw 26.
Okay.
I
was curious how much.
Yeah, in any one sitting, neither one of us has seen less than 12 does a night, every night. It doesn't really matter what part of the farm you're on. And many nights, at least through the week of Thanksgiving, now that everybody's feeding more heavily and more regularly, it's 20, 25, 30 does a night that we see scattered on different parts of the farm. So, we just in where we sat, we saw 16, and we shot 3 of those there. And on the walk in, we saw a few that were feeding on top, kind of in the center of the farm. And then in the evening, whenever and I shot one of those on the way in. And then in the evening, whenever it was dark, we drove in around the north side to get that doe, to retrieve that doe, and turn into the field and come over the crest of the hill, and 20 more does take off. And it's like, couldn't even count them. And we knew we saw 7 or 8 in that general area earlier. So I didn't really double count and probably even undercount. I would say I would venture a guess that there was at least 30 different does that we saw, in all reality. But it was to $0.
Yeah.
To 0.
That's a real healthy doe population. Definitely something that needs to be managed a little bit for sure.
Yeah. So we knocked 4 of them down, and trying to get some of those older mamas out of there. There's many different opinions on doe harvesting, doe numbers, buck to doe ratio. There's a million opinions out there. I don't know if anybody's wrong. I don't know if anybody's right. But one thing that you do know is that moms that have bucks will kick their bucks off, and they won't home in the same area that they're born, because that's natural selection's way of keeping inbreeding out. So mama does, at some point, they think it's about a year, to a year to 16 months, maybe even if they stay on longer to the next time that doe would come in heat, will have that buck, if she has, a button buck, twins or otherwise, will kick them off. She'll continually chase them, nip at them. There's plenty of studies out there that show that that's how Mother Nature takes care of inbreeding within a farm, so, or within locally. So if you want to retain some bucks, you either have to have bucks move in, or you have to allow bucks to be born, shoot off some mothers, so those bucks, stay put. And I don't know if there's too much science beyond that. Somebody might say, well, would sister bucks, or would sister does reject that buck? Would they know that natural selection says we can't do this, because just natural selection, they just won't do it. So I don't know the science there. So and maybe they're getting kicked off anyways. Regardless, there's a lot of does eating all the food that I'd like to see them bucks eating, and so a few had to go, and there'll be a few more to go as Missouri's doe season. It's really Missouri's doe weekend. I believe it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It used to just be a Saturday, Sunday. Now I believe it is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Usually the first full weekend in December. And so you will be able to take rifles out to the woods again. The Orange Army will reappear, and
the pumpkin patch comes back.
That's right. And it is like Armageddon all over again, but to a little lesser degree. So we will probably take a few again, and my plan is to take at least one with my bow. And I have a friend coming to hunt, Andy, our mutual friend. He's already listened and talked to me. I didn't even tell him about it. Did you?
He follows my YouTube channel, which all of these videos will be posted on my YouTube channel. So check us out there in Twisted Pine MT. Like, subscribe, share. Yeah,
great plug.
He saw that, and he reached out to me right away. Of course, commented on the thumbnail. But I did want to ask, what were you using your 7 Rem Mag? What's your deer gun? And then what's your bow as well? What setup are you using on both?
So my go-to with my deer harvesting my rifle is my 308. It's actually a Ruger precision rifle base. So if you're not familiar with it, it basically looks like an AR-10. Looks like a really large assault rifle with a 7.62 mag in it. It'll hold 10 rounds. Some states it's not legal to have that many shells, to carry that many shells. But, so it's an AR-10 Ruger precision rifle, 26-inch barrel, with a Quigley Ford scope on it. It's a 5x20 by 50. So it can reach out there quite a ways. It's an awesome scope. Quigley Ford makes really great glass, and they're Canadian. So you can call, and they're easy to get a hold of. I know there's a lot of great glass out there, and a lot of it is made overseas. But they make a great scope. It's actually got adjusting reticles within the scope. So I sent in the grain of bullet that I shoot and the feet per second that it chronographs. And based on those two items, you tell them where you want it to zero out at. So 0 at 200, your 0 will be 200, obviously. And then the continual reticles down, the crosshairs as they go down, read 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800. And as you zoom in and zoom out, those crosshairs move, get closer together and farther apart as your target would be, getting more closer and farther from you prospectively. So it's pretty awesome that there's no turning of turrets, unless you're wanting to adjust MOA left and right. There's no turning of turret to adjust up and down. If the deer is, 280 yards, kind of close to your 300 pin. It's almost like looking through a bow sight where you have a 300 pin, so to speak. And if the deer moves, you're like, oh, he's out to 400 now. You just raise the gun up and look at the next crosshair. So it's very convenient. I let a friend of mine use it tonight, actually, as today is the last day of rifle season here in Missouri. And he's in love with the scope. Already asking, where's this thing made? Who is this? What is this? How do I get one? So
That's kind of what I was thinking.
But it's great. I will say my only knock on the scope is that it's not lighted, which first world problems, but it's as you look into more like the 6, 7, 800 range, you're looking in the bottom of the glass because all those reticles are displayed, and it keeps 200 in the center of the focus. And so 800, you're moving the scope up, and your crosshair is actually in the bottom of the glass. So no longer is your target in the middle of your optic field. So that's the only knock I have on it. But it's an awesome shooting gun. It's a super heavy gun. I've had 8-year-olds shoot it. I'd comfortably shoot it out to 500-600 yards. I've shot it at like 475 as far as I've shot it personally. And I shot a 3-4 inch group. So, whatever that's moving, could be the wind, could have been me. I mean, I had it leaning over a four-wheeler seat. So it's not like it was even sitting in the sled to do that with. But great gun, great setup. It'll knock them down. We went neck shots and head shots only, so we didn't have to chase. So we didn't have to chase any does around. But that was pretty fun. Which we've got on film. Travis and I try to film as many hunts as we can. He's way more dedicated about it than I am, but and he does a great job of filming. Him and a group of guys, which is actually this is our logo. I'll get more into kind of that hunting group at some point, but Travis has it all on film, and you watch just deer fall down. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my rifle setup, and then my bow. I am carrying a Bowtech Carbon Icon. I believe it's a 2017 or 2018 build, so not terribly new. I had an older Hoyt from a friend of mine, shot a couple of deer with it, and went to an upgraded bow. And so I love the Carbon Icon. It's super light bow, one of the first carbon models kind of its time. I mean, there was earlier carbon models, but they're still fairly heavy and clunky. I think I would say this is one of the earliest successful carbon bows that they came out with that really did achieve what they wanted to, where it was super light, very quiet, and you can still draw 70 pounds and let them rip. It is a little bit shorter in stature, so it's not, I would say it's not terribly accurate, like 60, 70, 80 yards. I think you really have to be a good shot to do well with it. A longer, taller bow, whatever you want to say, would probably be better off for some longer shots because you get more stability through the bow. But I love it.
Yeah.
For backwoods Missouri hunting. Rarely should I have to shoot over 50 yards. It's a great bow.
Yeah, that axle to axle length is what you're referring to. Cam to cam, center cam to cam. Yeah, that I don't know. I favor more towards the shorter lengths. Just out of happenstance, I have a shorter length bow, axle to axle. I don't know what exactly it is. It's a 2010 model Matthews, so I've had it for a long time. But yeah, they are nice, especially in tree stands or just moving around if you're ground hunting, just getting in and out of some thick stuff. That's where the short bows take advantage, but they do take that hit when you start getting out to those longer distances. But that's where some stabilizers, come and help out a little bit, some longer stabilizers, but kind of a give and take on that as well. If you're going to have, a 12-inch stabilizer, now when you're sticking your arm out, you know, in your full draw, you got 12 inches hanging off the front of the bow. Your mobility might get a little hung up if you got some shrubs or some limbs out in front of you. So,
Yeah, the stabilizer predicament. I've not used a long stabilizer, and I see guys that have super long stabilizers on there. Maybe I'm just don't trim enough out of my trees, but I feel like I can't move around with them as well. It's like, it's sticking out there. I mean, of course, your arrow is sticking out there as well, but that's like one more thing that's on the end of my bow as I'm trying to, maneuver for a shot. And then I used to more so than now, but used to hunt out of a blind, out of either a ground blind or like a blind put on a trailer kind of scenario. And that was always kind of, not necessarily a problem, but just one more thing that I didn't want to have to fight. So I haven't really played around with longer stabilizers, but I might, if we need to shoot a mule deer with it, I'm going to have to play around.
yeah, I mean, on my Matthews, that it's a Matthews ZXT is what I'm currently repping. I just got it strung last year. I killed an elk with it last year. So it got restrung this year. I killed an elk with it last year. Figured it would do the trick. The only thing is it's only 55 pounds. Like it is not a heavy bow. So, penetration is definitely an issue with that once you get out to like 40 yards or so. So this year I'm looking at this coming up year, springtime, I'm looking into the Matthews Lift X, the 29.5 axle to axle, 70 or 75 foot-pound or pounds. I'm not sure 100%. You can go up to 80. I don't really think it's necessary to do 80. What I've seen recently in my past hunting experience out here is sometimes you get into these weird body positions, and I don't know. I mean, I'm a relatively strong guy, so I think I can pull back 80 pounds, relatively easy, but I don't think you get into a weird position where you're half laying down, half sitting type of a weird spot on a slope. I don't think you would want to be maxing yourself out, plus full adrenaline. Maybe you're out of breath because you just ran up a hill to try to catch up to an elk that does it all day. Like, there's just so many variables to where I really need to see what the breakdown is for feet per second with poundage variables in my draw length in that axle to axle to see, am I gaining anything? Like, what
Right.
are you gaining? Sure, you're gaining energy downrange, with the more draw weight, but
I mean, you could, in theory, go like a lighter poundage with a heavier arrow and, maintain some kinetic energy. I don't know what's your arrow setup for elk hunting out there?
Man, I'm not a huge nerd when it comes to that stuff. I came out with the setup for whitetail and was able to be successful on an elk. So I think you can definitely get lost in the weeds with all of the details and like the specifics on stuff. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if you put the arrow where it needs to go, not in a shoulder blade, it's going to do what it needs to do.
Yeah. Well, one of my friends is a really good hunter here from Central Missouri. He just knocked down an awesome buck, actually 165-inch mainframe 9, typical 9, and it's very clean rack too. I mean, it's not like it's got stickers everywhere. Those tines are just, there's not a tine on it less than 10 inches long, and it's just massive all the way throughout. But regardless, his name's Cody, and he is not one to necessarily have the latest and greatest this, that, or the other. He's got friends in a hunting group that's constantly finding the best advantage in every nook and cranny. And his favorite phrase is, Indians killed him with rocks and sticks. Indians killed him with rocks and sticks. Think about the bows we were using in 2006, 2004. I first started with my dad's bow, and that thing's like a 1996 model. And that thing I could shoot. I was too short for his draw length. And so his peep was like way up here. And I was just shooting down the arrow at 25, 35, 45 yards, just looking down the arrow and adjusting whenever I was younger. And I mean, that thing shot hard. So think how far we've come at 30 years of compound bows. And it's easy to go to the bow store and think, man, I need that. That thing's way nicer than mine. That's got way more, they give you all this data, on how fast it shoots and how consistent it shoots and how much easier it is on the draw. And my biggest thing was let back, because I'm not a big, strong guy by any means, strong enough for the most part, I think. But I wanted a pretty good amount of let off. I've got 80 or 85% let off. I pull 70 pounds, and it's nothing to me to do it, but I wanted to be prepared to be there for a while. And the first buck I actually shot, not with this bow, but with the previous bow, I was at full draw for like a minute 40 seconds. And that's a long time to stand back there. And I had at the time I had a Hoyt that was pulling back 65 pounds, but only had 50% let off. So I ended up shooting that deer in the butt. So but he died.
Yeah.
He died. That femoral artery gets him every time. It's undefeated.
Yeah. Hands down.
It's undefeated.
It's an unconventional kill area.
Yeah. But that's kind of was my goal whenever I went to my bow, is I want something that'll let off, and I want something fairly light to pack around, because I'm gonna pack it around. So
yeah, and I was on the fence about buying 2024's model, which is just the lift, but 2025 they did come out with, they're already released, it's the Lift X. So they've just changed a few things, some real little things. We could get into the weeds on it, just with the adjustability and the tunability, of the bow. But that bare bow weighs 3.98 pounds. And then obviously you start adding all of the stuff, the sights, the drop rest, the quiver, the arrows, like the stand. I mean, you're probably 6 pounds. I mean, it weighs as much as a rifle at that point,
Yeah.
Well, at least my Christensen, it does. But yeah, it's just one of those things where out here you put in so much work to even start hunting. I always say that the hunt starts when you get within 200 yards of an elk. Like you could see elk all the time, no problem, glassing them up. They're they're 2 miles away on the other side of the valley. And then, like, sure, you went hunting, you saw elk, but that doesn't mean anything until you get within 200 yards. And once you get 200 yards, like that, closing that distance to get within 45 yards of that critter. And if you're shooting for a bull, like I got onto a bull September 13th, and I was within 70 yards. And if I was confident and had, I had clean shot, he was broadside to me, I just don't shoot 70 yards. Not with a 55-pound bow. By the time it hits 70 yards, I'm gonna be pointing way up to the sky. Yeah, exactly. So
that arrow's coming down like this.
Yeah. So I want to be in a spot next year with a new setup, 100% confident that 70 yards, hands down. I don't care if there's 100 people watching me or nobody watching me. It takes so much work to get to that point just to see it go by. I don't want I'm not going to go out past 70 yards. Like, I don't even know if I'll shoot 70 yards. I've never shot 70 yards. So I want to have the capability, like my rifle setup right now is a 300 Win Mag, with a Vortec 3x15x42, I think, or 44. And 300 Win Mag, I mean, you shoot out to 1,000 yards if you wanted to, like, sure, you're going to have a bunch of drop, but like, you still do it. My furthest shot,
a heavy bullet.
Yeah, I mean, my furthest shot this year was 156 yards. Like, my rifle's way more capable than I am in shooting. but my morals and ethics, like, sure, my rifle can do it. That doesn't mean I'm going to take a shot on a living creature, wound it, make us as a community look bad, and then feel like crap because I wounded an animal that took so much work to get to that point. So it's just, I like to have the capability and then throttle my ethics off of my practice and morals and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'm at with spending. Dude, they're pricey. They're real pricey. I think it's about $2,500 to get a new bow fully tuned and set up. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I walked into the bow shop 2 weeks ago with Andy here in town. We've got a great bow shop here in Macon, and they're awesome. It's where I got my bow tech from. But man, the price of new bows, I've not priced a bow since probably 2020. But my goodness, they have jumped significantly. I feel like it was not that long ago, $1,200 bought you the premier bow on the market, whatever it was at the time. You know, Hoyt's latest and greatest or Matthews' latest and greatest, $1,200. I don't know. I guess that'd have been somewhere around 2020. So but I mean, it's doubled in 5 years. It is wild that, yeah, every latest and greatest that I looked at there on the showroom floor was $1,800 to $1,900, $1,800 to $2,000. And they look awesome and they shoot sweet. I pulled a couple back and threw some arrows down their range that they have there, and it sounds fast. I mean, it is quick. Definitely feels like it's shooting harder than my bow, but they killed them with sticks and stones. So I'm gonna continue until I can figure out that I've surpassed my weapon and I need a better weapon. I'm gonna keep shooting my bow. So I surely have yet to surpass that. I promise you, you won't catch me shooting 50 yards hardly ever, and I can practice it fairly regular and feel like I can hit, a pretty good sized target. Vitals, I would say. I think I can hit vitals at 50 yards, but in the moment, in the hunt, deer especially can hear that thing coming. There's some far more experienced hunters than I that will tell you if you are past 30 yards, you need to account for the drop of the deer, of them ducking the arrow. So that's their first move is to get spring loaded and ready to react. And that action, I'm sure, results in hundreds, if not thousands or hundreds of thousands of wounded deer across the United States. I'm sure the drop seems to catch at least one or two of my friends every year. If not me, it's caught me twice. So I've ricocheted one off one of them's back once because he heard me and was alert and ready for the shot, and I sent one through what we call no man's land, kind of above the lungs, below the spine. I've sent one through there on a deer, and both of them lived.
Yeah, I've definitely been to no man's land time, and the drop has
not a fun place to live.
No, it's not. It was my first year, last light, super excited. Drop got me. No man's land, tracked it, couldn't find it. And then the second one,
it gives you a pretty decent track job, sadly.
Yeah, I was pretty confident until it just stopped. Blood trail stopped. It's gone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's how mine was. It was, right where I shot him, there was blood, and then feet after there was some piles of blood where they're obviously they're projectile out of their mouth, and then it went to drops, and then it went to nothing. And after 120 yards of chasing blood trail, it went dry, and we never found the deer. And actually, like a week later, I got him on film walking at me at about 250, 240 yards. He was walking towards me over a terrace in a bean field. And safe to say, he did not come within. I was in the exact same stand that I shot from. He did not come even close to that stand. He stayed far and far away from that corner. But so it's not a fun place to live, no doubt. But maybe these $2,500, that bow's gonna shoot itself. I'm confident.
I mean, I think that's pretty much what they're saying. They're coming out with all sorts of fancy stuff. Guaranteed kill every time is what they're saying.
Oh, take my money now.
I mean, it's basically like it's the equivalent of buying a new driver,
Can't say that I haven't fallen for that trick either. As a man of many clubs and many bags, there's multiple bags in multiple rooms in this. So we don't need to jump down that rabbit. But yeah, I would love to get the latest and greatest everything, but it's sadly it doesn't solve the problems that it is still the Indian. So, but speaking of some near misses, let's hear about your near miss. You had an awesome hunt, or maybe a not so awesome hunt. I mean, it's awesome to an extent, but a scary hunt for sure. Walk us through your hunt.
Yeah, so it was an awesome hunt. I mean, hands down, one of the most fun hunts that I've had this year. Just kind of all around. Made a new friend that day. We were going after the same bull. It's my first time archery hunting, being able to chase down a bull. So just kind of run you down through the highlights of the day. Started off the morning near a trailhead where I had seen a really nice bull the night before. So I had figured he would be up in this area, kind of. There's a no big game hunting area up there, so I figured he'd be up there and I could catch him on the way down to the pivot fields where he would be, feeding all day, where it's another no game hunt. But there's this little section where, if you catch him at the right time, you're at the right place, right time, lady luck might be on your side that day. So I get out of my truck, first light, probably 25 minutes before shooting light, start walking up kind of in the dark, but it's a real berry area up there. A lot of grizz, a lot of black bear. So I'm like, I'm going to play it safe. I'll just, once it starts cracking, then I'll start walking.
So how'd you know this was a bear area? Because I received an auspicious Snapchat earlier that morning.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yes.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, well, so it's not uncommon to go hunting out here and come across bear scat. Like, it's just, yeah, I mean, if you don't want to run into bears, stay at home. That's kind of, I mean, we have a healthy grizz population here in Montana. I think the last estimate was right about 2,000 grizzlies in the state of Montana. So, and being pretty close to Yellowstone, that number is obviously concentrated because there's no pressure on them. So, I had sent, just to keep up with my staff streaks, I had sent everyone a picture of a fresh pile of bear scat. And now I had learned that bear scat was full of oats, horse feed. So that bear had been a problem bear in the area, breaking into people's horse stalls and eating grain. So didn't know that. It was about 6:15 in the morning as I was walking up, September 13th, Friday. So
this is a bad deal. This is set up for failure.
I'm walking up, a lot of elk sign, a lot of, you could still smell them, it kind of smells like you're around horses is what it smells like. So horse or, elk smell, elk sign everywhere, following game trails up, at this point, I'm only about a mile from my truck. Don't see anything, still smelling them, still thinking they're around, just can't spot them. So I'm like, all right, well, it's 9:00, elk out here, the game. I mean, at this point, I've pretty much got them patterned. It seems like 10:00 rolls around, they bed down. They're not moving far from where they're bedding. So if you can find them, move on them when they're bedded. make a play, wait for them to get up and come back down to their water or their, evening ground. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, but I'm also thinking, okay, it's 9:00. Like, I need to get to work. I'm just out for a morning walk pretty much to see if I can get on anything, and we'll go from there.
So kind of a semi-scout type hunt, like just getting bearings of what's in this section. And
yep, it's a brand new section. I had private access to get onto public land to just cut some miles off and take care of it that way. So anyways, get up to the top of where I'm going, probably only 700 feet of elevation gain, just over 1.5 miles, so nothing crazy. Usually just hunt the front countries during the weekday mornings because I'm able to put in, 3 to 5 miles pretty quick and then get back to work. So this is one of those mornings, just typical morning archery hunting. Didn't bring any snacks, didn't bring any water, but like just a small Nalgene. Didn't really figure I'd be out there too much. So I get down to the creek bottom. I figure I'll just walk the other side, the north side. Since I walk the south side in, get a lay of the land on both sides. It's a tight canyon with real tall trees, so you can't see across to the other side. So get down to the creek, cross the creek, and then I look through this little opening in this thick willow patch, hackberry, willow, aspeny area, just creek bottom out here, and I see an elk. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, like here we are. I'm 400 yards away. It's it. I'm like, we're 400 yards away. 35 minutes ago, I walked right where that elk was sitting. So I was pretty surprised that elk was right there. So, and I mean, I wasn't quiet. I was just kind of walking, just not being sneaky or anything, just hiking at that point. So I'm like, all right, I'll cross back over to the south side. I get going. I see there's about 15 elk. I'm like, great. I have a cow tag for this area, so it's a win-win. I could shoot a cow or a bull. Let's move in. Let's make a play. So I get cruising in. I get about 200 yards from them, and I realize that there's a bull with them. I mean, we're still like pre-rut, but it's starting to pop off. Like, starting to get vocal. They're starting to rake trees and stuff. So at this point, pretty much forgot about the 15 cows. I'm like, there's a bull. I'm going to fill my general tag, and then I got my cow tag. Like, this is a home run deal right here. So this is my first experience kind of hunting archery with a bull. So I don't call. I'm a spot and stalk kind of guy. Just don't have confidence, or till this year really haven't wanted to put time into calling. So I decide to get back in the creek, drop my pack, and walk this creek, which has real thick cover, as far as I can, because it's going to mask my scent and it's going to mask my noise. So I'm walking this creek, and I get within 100 yards of them, and then the creek starts to break off and go back the opposite way of the truck, or the bull. So at this point, I get out. I do have a cow call, a reed cow call, so I'm cow calling to him. He's getting pretty just vocal. He's bugling. He's raking. Like, all right, he comes back down about 10 yards. I'm still about 90 yards from him. So I get out of the creek, start crawling towards him behind some cover, and then at 70 yards, I run out of cover, and it would just be a wide open, walk to him. So at this point, I realize, can't get any closer. He's not cow calling. He's looking up above, or he's not bugling anymore, but he's still raking. So he's looking up past me, like above me on the hillside.
When you say raking, raking,
go ahead.
What is that in elk terms compared to whitetails? We have rubs and scrapes. So raking trees, he's just getting onto trees.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's standing in front of a tree. Yep. And just thrashing at this tree. So just showing aggression, right? Dominance. So he's doing this at 70 yards. I'm just watching because there's no play for me. And then I'm watching his cows because they're feeding up over this little saddle. So I'm like, okay, you know, we'll let them feed away. He'll follow them, and then maybe I can make a move once they break over that saddle. So at this point, they feed up over. I start making my move up, and I no sooner get to the top, and I look over my shoulder, and I see another hunter walking towards me. Since I was down in the creek, I couldn't hear anything else but that elk bugling back towards me. This guy had been bugling and walking down an open hillside towards this elk the whole time I was moving in on him. So it's just that public land hunter type deal. So that basically, that hunt got blown out because that elk took his cows and went into that no big game hunting area, and he stayed there for the rest of the day. So 3 o'clock rolls around, 2:30 rolls around, and I'm like, all right, dude, nice to see you. I'm heading back to the truck. I'm going to try to salvage a little bit of this work day. So
thanks for blowing up my hunt.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I got his number, and we're good buddies now. He actually helped me pack out my cow this year, so he's made up for it.
He's local?
He's a local dude. Yep, we're in the same trade, so we have a lot of stuff in common, and yeah, yep. So we're buddies. Yeah, he actually just came over for dinner and a beer the other night, so it ended up working out well. So he offered to give me a ride.
Have you mentioned to him the dynamic there? Like, by the way, you kind of blew up what I had going there. Or did he just like put 2 and 2 together and be like, dude, I screwed that up?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He felt bad. He was like, hey man, let me call for you, and let's try to get this elk. And like, all right, let's go for it. So he's a good guy. His name's Colton. He's a real good dude. So anyways, so he offered to give me a ride back to my truck, around 2:30, because we were closer to his truck than my truck. He's like, hey man, we go to my truck, I'll give you a ride, and then I'll drop you off on my way out of town. Like, okay. I think I'm going to pass. I'm only 3/4 of a mile from my truck. Like, I want to see new country. I'll get back down to my truck, and I don't want to go down the bumpy road out of my way to get back to my truck with your truck. So shake hands, say see you later. I'm walking. I'm about 700 yards from my truck at this point. Only a couple 100 feet above my truck elevation-wise. Walking along the north side of the creek, down creek towards my truck, and I get to this tight draw, and there's kind of a seep higher up coming out of the hillside. There's a real big cliff band above, so it's like cliff band, seep, creek down below, and it's all within 200 yards. And it's just real tight overgrowth of linden, pines, choke cherries, willows, just kind of some real nasty stuff. So I'm surveying, trying to figure out what to do. Like, okay, well, path of least resistance is to kind of climb up a little bit and then go through this opening, or I could just kind of bomb straight through, because it overgrowth, you could shoot underneath it 2-3 feet tall. There's a little opening, shoot down through there and come up the other side. Like, well, kind of lazy right now. Like, I don't want to do that. So I go up towards the opening, get to the opening. I see it's like a 3 or 4 foot elevation change to get down and then back up the other side. And I see there's this little willow tree in the center of this area that you kind of have to step over this little stream, willow tree, and then up the other side. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. I have seen elk and mule deer in that area before. So I'm like, kind of thinking to myself, like, it could happen here. A little bit of noise. I have some cover with sound and stuff. There's not much wind. Like, everything's looking pretty good. So, I get down to this crossing, just take a step with my left foot over this willow, and my chest is facing uphill right now. And I hear this cracking behind me, like tree branches breaking. I'm like, all right, like I just spooked an elk or something that was bedded down in this thick cover, like shit. So look over my left shoulder to check out what it is, and there's this brown mass getting off the ground. And at this point, like, I'm like, holy fuck, that's a bear. So I turn back to my right the way I came, screaming at the top of my lungs, hey bear, hey bear. And I have my bino harness, my chest rig, like I have bear spray. I always carry a Smith & Wesson 40, one in the chamber, 15, double stacked, bear load, which I had just picked up the week before. Usually I was just carrying a critical defense, like personal defense round, which is not a good bear load. So I have bear load in it.
Yeah, way to make him mad.
Yeah. So I clear the opening. I'm screaming, hey bear. I'm running as fast as I can. Don't know how I made it out without tripping because the terrain was grassy, rocky, not real good running terrain. But I managed to get out of the drainage, clear the opening by 12 yards or so. And once I cleared the opening, I turned around to see if I was in the clear, if I actually saw what I saw. And at that point, the bear had broke the cover of the drainage and was still charging. And at 12 yards, I dropped my bow, took 2 steps back, drew my pistol, and I shot 9 times. At the time, I thought, after everything, I thought it was 4 times. But when I got back to the truck, it turned out to be 9 times.
You look at your clip and you're like, this is mostly gone.
Like, holy cow.
Holy crap. Holy crap.
So from 12 yards to 6 yards is when that happened. At 6 yards, the bear broke off of my left shoulder at a 45. I saw him enter the dark cover again and vividly remember this is when like all auditory noise comes back. Like it's kind of like glass breaking and it's back, right? So up to this point, like visual and audio stuff is like I have no recollection of it. So 6 yard, he breaks off 45 off my left shoulder back into the timber or the straw, and I see this paw wave through the air, like just a crash paw wave through the air, and then this what I thought was like a death grunt. It was just kind of this like kind of noise, and like still pistol fixed on this bear at now, probably about 15 yards, and just trying to understand like, okay, that like holy fuck, that just happened. And like, okay, I'm in one piece, like I'm good, nothing's going on. So this is all happening pretty quick. So I decide to holster my gun, look down in my bino harness. My binos are gone. I look down a couple feet in front of me, my bow's sitting on the ground. I holster my pistol, I grab my bow, and I turn around and start running the other way as fast as I can. I get up about 50 yards, cross the creek, run up about 200 feet of elevation on the other side, get to a point of where I'm like, okay, I have some vantage, like I could look around to see if I'm safe. I take my last drink of water, like just a sip, but enough to kind of take a deep breath and understand what's going on. I look down at my phone. My phone has 1% battery left. I'm able to mark it on Onyx and take some of my layers off, because at this point, like, I'm hot. My heart rate's through the roof, so I'm trying to collect myself. And then I start making it back to the truck. So once I got to the truck, like I said, I was actually 749 yards away from my truck as the crow flies. So once I got back to the truck, start my truck, I had some water in the truck, take a big drink of water. I unload my handgun just to see where I thought my perspective was, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts about officer-involved shootings and just their recollection on kind of what had transpired over a very intense, high adrenaline-packed shooting. So I was just curious of like, okay, yeah, auditory exclusion checks out. Can't tell you what the grizzly bear, I thought it was a cinnamon black bear. Um, that that checks out, that I have no idea what it was, like what the bear looked like. That
So
checks out.
did you say you found out it was what you thought it was, or it was a different bear than you thought?
So it was a grizz, is what I'm told. That's what we never found the bear. Never, we went back the week later, or we went back the next morning with Fish and Game, called Fish and Game right away. Guess I should finish that first. We called Fish and Game right away.
Yeah.
I called the landowner that I accessed his property. He's a good guy, a buddy of mine. He knows Fish and Game real well. So I called him. He gave me the bear specialist's number. I called the bear specialist, filled him in on everything, sent him the pin of where it happened, gave him the whole story. Then I had to tell two other guys the story, I assume just so that way they could see right away if there was any inconsistencies, just to see if I was poaching a black bear, or a grizz. By the way, Montana Fish and Game guys, bar none, they're solid dudes. Like, as long as you are doing what you should as a sportsman, like, nothing but respect for these guys. Like, their first thing out of their mouth after hearing the story is, "Hey man, I'm glad you're okay. Like, we had plenty of grizzly bears. Like, I'm glad you're okay." So
Yeah.
they're fantastic guys.
6 yards is a pretty close encounter with death. That is way too close.
Yeah, I agree. So once my heart rate and was down, and I was able to get some juice in my phone, and then I had finally texted Laura, my wife, and was like, "Hey, Mike, I'm okay, but I just shot a grizz." And she texted me right away and was, very calm, but just concerned, as you would imagine. So told her the whole story, and she's kind of in shock. And then later that evening, she asked if I was going to go out hunting again that night. It's like, I might take a minute off here.
Maybe take a day or two.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so fast forward to the next morning, I meet the Fish and Game guys over at the same spot at where it happened. We hiked up. I showed them, exactly where it happened. I told them that, like, hey, I lost my binos. Like, this is where I think they are. This is where I went through. This is where the bear was, kind of the whole thing. And it turns out that just with the location of my shell casings, the location of my binos, like, all of the distances and stuff were actually somewhat accurate. Like, they're all relatively close. So weren't able to find the bear. Weren't able to find blood or anything. The guy that was with us thought he saw some movement in that thick brush. So there's nothing more dangerous than a wounded grizzly bear. So at that point, we decided it wasn't worth to see what kind of bear it was if it was wounded and pissed off. So
yeah, I think he's shy. Let's go see if he's upset about
it. Yeah. Yep. So just kind of the thing that kept coming back to me is, like, for as bad as things got, it couldn't have went any better. Like, not too many people get to walk away from that experience. And, I mean, for the most part, I'm pretty decent. Like, I do behave a little different in the woods now than what I did prior to that day. I'm more hesitant to go into some spots where I don't have a lot of view around me to see what's coming and what's going. But I'm pretty grateful. So yeah,
Wow.
it was a great day of hunting. Learned a lot of lessons, and yeah, definitely grateful to be here.
Well, I think your story is better than my doe hunt story.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do we have anything else to talk about after like that? I just wrecked the
I
whole
don't know how you.
podcast.
Yeah, I don't know how you follow up a bear chase. Too
Yeah,
bad you didn't have somebody with you. You could have done the whole. I don't have to outrun the bear. I just got to outrun the next slowest. I just got to be faster than the guy beside me. But
yeah. I mean,
we're
great.
we're all glad
I'm
you're okay.
grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful that there was no one with me because
Yeah,
two people in that tight spot. The first person in's screwed. You're screwed. There's no way. Maybe.
and potentially
That
bullets flying.
you just get
Like
into a lot of
two
ifs
yeah,
and ands.
two people would be trying to defend themselves simultaneously against a bear that's could care less of what you are.
Yep. Yep. So
But yeah, I think you hit it, nail on the head there. For as bad as that situation got, it couldn't have turned out any better. I mean,
yeah.
unscathed, everybody safe. You took care of somebody's horse problem, it sounds like.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So and
I'm
it
sure there'll be
sounds
thank you
like
notes to come.
yeah, right, yeah. I think from what I've heard from the Fish and Game guys, there was a bear trap not too far away from where I parked my truck. There was just a couple houses down in that horse pasture that the bear was getting into. So they were having issues, known bear issue there. I mean, it's hard to share every bear encounter with personal property that they encounter because they're
Right.
so run thin, on all of this stuff. But after
And the
September
land is
13th,
vast.
yeah, I mean, I think we got 147,000 square miles in Montana, so we got a lot of ground to cover. Not all of that is bear habitat, but at least a third of it is. So after that day, they never had any bear encounters with the houses down there. So they think, it's either one hell of a coincidence or that was the problem bear and she crawled somewhere and expired. But
Well,
so
better the bear than you. That's quite the encounter. And
yeah, and
I'm
it's
I'm gonna
interesting
have to get
because
some bear rounds for my 45. It sounds like.
yeah, I won't let you come with me unless you do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
insane.
mean,
That's like
and
unbelievable.
it's one of those things where, you know, I was very nervous about bear encounters. Just hunting solo, archery, sneaking around the woods, just, it was something that was always at the forefront of my mind. So a month before archery season, I started doing conditioning hikes in bear country just to get comfortable with being back there by myself. With that like constant, just like, is a bear going to be over this hill? Like, is a bear going to be around this next bend in this trail? Like, just kind of settling myself down so that way, I don't know. It's just, and then a month later, this happens. So I did end up taking a majority of archery season off after that. I kind of stuck to a open hunting, which is even harder,
Right.
and so, but I got back out there towards the end, but I don't leave my truck without now I have a 10 mil. So I don't leave my truck without 10 mil, one in the chamber, 15 in the mag. And I don't leave without bear spray. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty, I don't know. Yeah, I don't practice a whole lot with my sidearm, but I mean, I have practiced in the past. So it's hard to say why I didn't freeze, why I did think to draw it. It's not like I fell to my lowest level of training because I don't train for that scenario. So that's kind of why that saying just keeps coming back into my head. It's like, well, it just wasn't my time.
Right. Yeah, definitely, some good instincts just to turn around and draw your pistol. Because I mean, it's not like you're ex-military and have just the natural instinct to when things go wrong. Self-defense in this way. It's not a natural thing for. I mean, I don't know that anybody would know what you would do, but it's not like we carry a pistol for self-defense in Missouri. There's really uh, there's no other predator in the woods whenever we were hunting that would want to take on a human. I mean, like bobcats and coyotes and everything. I mean, nothing like that. Everything in our woods is more scared of you than you are of it. And they say there's some mountain lions around here. There's been some spottings of a mountain lion or two, but even a mountain lion to that extent up here is not likely going to be targeting humans. So, especially not armed humans, walking, strategically through the woods or something, or sitting in a tree stand, not exactly the prey they would stalk. But yeah, that's wild. I don't even know, where I would holster my 45 in which I would comfortably pull from, because I've never had to holster mine. I've got a 45 and I've taken it out and shot, and I have taken it to the woods, but never more like, well, if a possum crawls up my tree, I'm gonna shoot this thing with a 45 because I've seen like 10 possums in this tree. And so more one of those things, not necessarily for self-defense, but yeah. So anyway, kudos. Glad that was your instinct for whatever reason. That's that's insane. That's absolutely wild.
And so just kind of speaking to drawing your pistol, and I was very cognizant of that because, like I said, I already have my bino harness, my FHF bino harness with bear spray underneath it. So I didn't want a chest rig because I figured you never know the scenario of how the game is going to present itself to you to make the play. So you could just be hiking, holding your bow, and then get a shot with your pack on, your bino harness, like just kind of everything around. So, or you maybe encounter a bear where you have everything and you can't get to your sidearm because your pack strap's clicked over top of it, and it's all right there. So my chest is already too busy. So my right outer waistband was kind of where it needed to be. So it was just, and it's able to fit with my pack belt loop around, and then I'm still able to draw my gun with my pack on pretty easily. So with my new setup, it's not as streamlined as with my 40. So if anyone has any good outer waistband holsters that are through a belt loop and not necessarily, like, I want something that I can feed my belt through, not necessarily slip on and off without taking my belt off. Because I want to be able to take my pack off, all my layers, and still have my sidearm with me. So that's kind of like, especially, it was my requirement before I had that experience, but it's definitely my, like, go or no go experience now. So
regardless, you want it strapped to you somehow.
100%. So
yeah. So I mean, if you were to trip and fall and you had one that would like clips over your waistband, that's how a lot of concealing carries are, where they clip over your waistband or clip inside your waistband, and they're not really strapped to your person that well. I mean, you could trip and fall and lose the gun completely.
Yeah, so I have my retention on the pistol set pretty hard, just to make it not so kind of haphazardly fall out. But actually, this last hunt, Laura and I went out trying to get her on a whitetail before the season ended, which now it's over. Today was our last day as well. So when we got back to the truck, I noticed that my pistol had rotated 90 degrees and was sitting like this instead of parallel with my legs, because one of the screws had backed out of it. it's a We the People holster, and I don't like it. It's at like the plate is, it slides over your belt, and it's the size of, it's like a 4x8 kind of like little thing that slips over, and it makes a bunch of noise because it's just cheap. I hate it. But they were the only people that they do really good on marketing, and they blew up my shit. So I was like, okay, I'll buy it. Like, I'll just buy it. Yeah, I needed one anyways. So, and it worked with my pack system. So this is going to be on my list of like, I would like to upgrade that this coming up season and have it dialed in for archery season. So,
yeah, I put a gun holster, pistol holster on my Christmas list. But one that I found, or a couple that I found, were in that $50 range, not terribly expensive. But they're not. You can find far more, I think, ergonomic and probably better holsters by actually visiting a gun store and finding probably some more quality stuff there. I was just looking on the internet, and whatever you can find on the internet, you can then find on Amazon. You know, if it's sold on the internet, Amazon also sells. And so there was quite a few on the internet that, I don't know, pushed towards the top of the list at Google. I'm sure because they also rank high on Amazon, so therefore, you know, whatever. But yeah, so I am looking for a holster as well, primarily for coming out west or whenever I feel like I need a pistol on me, not necessarily for self-defense around. I don't feel the need to carry where I'm at in Missouri for self-defense, but I am looking for holsters for my truck, but that's on a whole nother type of gun.
yeah, it's I mean, we're kind of getting up there on time now, but just kind of in closing, I think, just speaking to the holster thing, if you're looking to buy a Western gun, as far as like Western self-defense, and, you know, the 45 is a good option. You know, it has a lot of muzzle energy. It's a little bit slower than the 10 mil, but it does have a lot of muzzle energy. I don't know the specific numbers. But something that I didn't pay attention to when I bought my gun, which is an FHF, or I'm not sorry, FNH 510 Tactical. Love it, hands down. It's an awesome, reliable gun. I love the sights. It's ready to put. It has the Picatinny rail underneath it. It also has the plate for optics above it. Don't know if I'm going to get that crazy with it. It also got a threaded barrel. So, I mean, you know, when in Rome.
You wanted to suppress. Yeah.
But I digress. I'm just saying that an FNH is kind of into that caliber of not necessarily being something that everyone and their brother has. So it's really hard to just walk into your local gun shop and pick up, or your Shields, and pick up, you know, an over the waist or outer waistband holster for it. So, which is, or even like mags or anything like that. So, all I'm saying is, you know, maybe if you're looking for something to be super accessible, maybe pick up a Glock or something like that, where everyone and their brother has a Glock 10, you know,
Yeah.
or Glock 10 millimeter. You know, or if they don't, you know, that frame may fit one of the other 10 million Glock models. So
Right.
just
So
keep
I've got
that
a
in
Glock.
mind.
Yeah, I've got a Glock 47, which is size-wise equivalent to 17. But I've also got, which is a 9mm round, and my 45 is a 1911, fairly large, fairly heavy. It's a great it's a great creek gun. I call it a creek gun around it. It's a gun you could just take out, waller in the mud, pick up out of full of water, and fire off 10 rounds. Like it's just it's a workhorse of a pistol. It's no show pony, that's for sure. So I was kind of hoping to find bear rounds for that 1911. Because otherwise I really don't have use other than being out west for a 10 mil. I've actually got it. I guess I could say this. I do have two friends that have more 10 millimeter pistols than I have all guns. Like from 22s, pistols, rifles, shotguns, all of my weapons, they have that many 10 millimeter pistols because they are in love with them. So I've heard great things about them. And I could probably just borrow one from them. If I felt like I needed to bring one of those with me, I'm sure they've got holsters for them as well. But
Yeah, and I mean, just to speak to the caliber thing quick, I had my encounter with a 40. It turns out a 40, I didn't know this at the time, but a 40 is basically just a necked down 10 millimeter. The projectile is, I mean, within thousandths, but it's the same, projectile circumference wise. So the feet per second and the muzzle velocity difference, I think, are about 10 to 15% different. I mean, so you're not
shooting
sure.
different grain then?
Yeah, so you got it's about 10%, 10 to 20% across the board. So my 40 shoots at 200 grain, my 10 mil shoots at 225 grain. My 40 shoots at, rough numbers, it's been a minute, but let's just call it 1,000 feet per second muzzle velocity. My 10 mil shoots at 1250. The energy is, I think, 250 foot-pounds more at the muzzle than the 40 is with my 10 mil. So it's like right in that 10 to 20% more with the 10 mil than it is with the 40. So even if you do have a 40 caliber, pick up some barrel load and just rock that. I'm not saying go out, spend $1,500 on a box of ammo, a new holster, and a new weapon platform right before you come out and Western game hunt. That's not what I'm saying at all. But just saying, if you were looking for one, the 10 mil seems to be, a pretty big hit. And
I've heard great things about it.
I was before, and I still am a quantity person. So I want 16 rounds. My brother is a wheel gun guy. He doesn't care about how fast he can get off the rounds or how many rounds he has. He just wants to know that when he pulls the trigger, there is very little disruption with that thing going around and cycling, where, our semi-auto guns, we have a little bit more going on and there is more potential for a jam, stovepipe, like stuff like that, which, in that case, you're toast, whatever, it happens, I guess. But I guess that just comes up to, kind of maintenance. Anyways, I think what we should plan on for our next podcast, just kind of pigtailing off of this, is kind of a gear podcast. Like, what kind of gear are we rocking? What clothes? What boots? Like, just kind of nitty gritty stuff. And then if we have time in that podcast, maybe we could do something like, what are we planning on changing for hunt season 25? What worked,
Definitely.
what didn't work. Just kind of go down that gear rabbit hole. And I know you got some new gear coming for
I do.
for some Western hunting. So looking forward to hearing some specifics on that. And I don't know if you want to give a little tease to that, or if you just want to save it for the next one.
Yeah, so I've got a weapon on the way that will make me more effective out there, I hope. I don't really have a weapon set up for being out west. My 308, which I feel comfortable shooting a long distance, is a slower round. And so it's a massive gun. That's my biggest thing, is I put together a massive heavy gun. By the time I've got bipods, attachments, scope, I mean, nothing about it was built light. It's all built to basically sled shoot or shoot from a box blind or, something of that sort. So my other longest shooting weapon that I have to kind of, pack on my back would be a 25-06, and that's not necessarily what I want to pack out there. It's a short barrel 25-06. In short, the weapons I have aren't built to shoot, or aren't built to do what they need to do to go out west and hunt anything, whether that be elk or pronghorn or goats, whatever it might be out there. Most of my setups are not built for that. My hand-me-down guns are quote-unquote brush guns, and they do great out to 300 yards. And if you're a really good marksman, you can push the envelope as confident as you are in yourself. But I'm decided I needed to go a different route, so I've got a new weapon on the way, and
Yeah,
I'm
man,
hoping
you're
have it.
really set up for Midwest hunting. But now
Yes,
it's
yeah,
we're
exactly.
on. And we're talking about some Alaska stuff too. So I mean, you got
I
to
would
look
love
out for
to.
that stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
there's a friend of mine spent some. I guess we can touch on that at some other point, but caribou
definitely.
out there is, from what I'm told, fairly easy pickings. Like, not a terribly hard hunt to do, more just hard access to get there. But I've got a friend in Alaska there that has been stationed in Alaska for years. He's actually getting relocated, but I think still has the ability to, with the base being there. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
a
touch
whole
base
nother
on it.
ball. It's a whole nother ball of wax. But I would love to get up to Alaska and do some caribou hunting, and then another friend of mine does some moose hunting up there, and would love to tag along and do some learning eventually on some trips that way. So I'm kind of one-stop shop, building a gun. I'm not going to build 3 different guns to kill 10 different animals. I'm kind of a go big or go home sort of thing. So I'm excited. I'm hoping to have it. The scope comes in this week. One of my really good friends is putting the scope and the gun together. He has the gun, and he's got ammo built. We're gonna do some testing on what grains kind of pattern out really well, distance wise. My only requirement is I'm wanting to be north of 176, 180 grain. I've got friends in that same caliber that shoot over 200, and they shoot, obviously it's quite a bit slower bullet when you're out there, but they are tremendously accurate. And a lot of that goes to their setup as well, and it's not a big setup, but yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely some more. We can definitely jump into some gearhead stuff. I've got some outer layer and some mid layer gear showing up this week too, so I'm stoked about that.
All right, I'm looking forward to hearing what you ended up going with, and definitely talking some gear on this stuff, because just coming up to the end of the season, obviously I'm thinking of what performed with me, what I'm super happy with, what I in my list of stuff to change isn't much, but there are definitely some things where I'm like, man, that I was able to push through this season without spending a whole lot of money, but it would be nice to upgrade this to something different and just make it a little bit easier on me when these moments pop up. So, we'll go from there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will sign off here and reconvene in the coming week and hit it again with some gear. So, as always, good to talk to you, Jace.
Yeah,
have a
man,
great week at work. Hug those babies for me.
Yeah, buddy. Good chatting with you, and good luck on your upcoming doe season, man. Looking forward to hearing about it.
Absolutely. Thanks. We'll see you later.
All right, buddy. Take it easy.